And good afternoon. It is Ryan Belmore here, owner and publisher of What's Up Noop. It is 1 p.m. on Tuesday, October 13th. Joining me is Mr. Frank Prosnitz. There you are.
Here I are.
And
put my ears in here.
That's all right. I've been in the midst of all things election, but we're going to take a left-hand turn or a right-hand turn and focus on the cars in the Department of Motor Vehicles for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, well, it's important because if you want to get to the polling place, you usually have to drive.
Yes, you do. And
tell us about our guest. Segue.
Yeah, it was all right. Tell us about our guest today.
We have Bud Craddock, who is the Department of Motor Vehicle Administrator, and he specifically wants to talk about a couple of important scheduling developments for the registry, and those are important scheduling developments. He wants to talk about the grace periods we've had in place for license, registration, expiration dates. They're coming to an end, and restarting some Saturday office hours. So those are good things, I think.
They are good things. And what we're going to do is we are going to give it a couple minutes because Mr. Craddock just left the room for a second. So hopefully he rejoins us. And,
maybe went out for a beer.
He was there, and hopefully he comes back here in a couple minutes.
Okay.
But very important stuff. The grace periods they've had in place for license, registration, expiration dates because of COVID are coming to an end in November, and they're also restarting Saturday office hours. So it's pretty important topics. And, you know, I remember at the beginning of COVID, all the way back in March, where the governor had to say, all right, well, if your license or your registration expires this month, you got another extra 2 months. And I wonder how backed up they are or how busy they've been. The DMV is always busy. If he says they haven't been busy.
Yeah, I think a few things are happening. I think there are a number of departments that are shorthanded. My guess is that they're not filling vacancies as they come up. And so they're probably departments that are shorthanded, and therefore certain paperwork gets left behind, or it gets not left behind, but it's slow to process. I know that we're personally involved in something that's now taken a few months longer than it should have. Understood that there's a bigger workload for fewer people.
Well, let's have Mr. Craddock talk to us because he knows the business better than we do. And Bud Craddock joins us. And good afternoon, Bud.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. I had to follow up there for a second, so I apologize that I'm a few moments late.
Yeah, most important question. What car do you drive? What license plate so people can... No, I'm only kidding. So, Bud, there are a couple of things in particular, and we probably want to touch on some others as well, that you wanted to touch on, particularly the grace periods and restarting Saturday office hours.
That's correct. The grace periods are going to be coming to an end. We are going to be sending some postcards out over the next week or so, just as a reminder to the people that haven't renewed yet. Anybody that had a renewal that would have been in March, May, June, August, September, and naturally November have to be done by the end of November. Anybody that had an April, July, or October renewal have to be done by the end of October.
So let me get this. So you said March through November?
No, it's a couple different months, and this is available on the DMV website. Okay. We have a chart that you can link to right there. But it is March, May, June, August, September, and November have to be done by the end of November.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And April, July, and October have to be done by the end of October.
Okay. Is there any reason for that kind of configuration?
Part of it is the way we did the extensions through the pandemic. They were all coming due at certain months. So these were just the dates that would be coming up in October and November.
When people renew, will their next renewal dates be out consistent with their renewal now, or will it go back to when they...
It'll go back to their original date. So if somebody had a March renewal, they will have to renew in March of 2022.
Okay.
If they had a regular registration. If they had a commercial registration or a combo that renews on an annual cycle, then they would have to renew next March again.
But how has the online appointment process worked for the DMV? And have you learned anything about it where we might be able to use it in the future?
Well, my goal is to keep it going in the future, not to stop it at all. We have received overwhelming positive response, social media, emails into the DMV. There are some people that have trouble getting reservations, but again, it's a new normal, and people sometimes want to get a reservation right away, and they have to wait a couple weeks to be able to get the reservation. Part of that is because of the backlog that we've experienced because of the pandemic, but I think over time, that backlog is going to shrink, and people will be able to get a reservation a lot sooner. Right now, we're booking reservations roughly about 4 weeks out. So it's like going to a fine restaurant. Think of it that way.
It is. There are some restaurants you can't get an appointment to. How has the time that people have been spending at the DMV been impacted? Has it been much less because of the appointment? If in case people haven't been, when you make an appointment, how long should you expect to be there? How long is the process that you still wait?
What we're seeing is the average time once they're in the building has been about 15 to 20 minutes. There are a couple days that go a little bit longer, but the average is about 15 to 20 minutes once you're in the building.
That's not bad at all.
And we try to stress for the people not to come too early because you're just going to wait outside. So we say come within 15 minutes of your appointment time, and then you'll be on your way fairly quickly.
And of course, we have to get to Saturday office hours. Tell us about that.
That's correct. We, as you know, prior to the COVID pandemic, we had started to open Saturday hours for the Real ID program to try to get more people through, because Real ID was supposed to have gone into effect October 1st of this year. With COVID and the pandemic, that has been extended to next October, so October 1st of 2021. So now that we've somewhat stabilized, and what we're trying to do is get people back into the building. So we've working well with the reservations, but we're going to start doing Saturday hours for the Real ID again. Starting this Saturday, we're going to be 8:30 to 12:30 now through the end of the year, except for the 2 holiday weekends, of course, Thanksgiving and Christmas weekends.
Are there other places where people can register for the Real ID?
Yes, AAA, they are able to do a Real ID if they're AAA members.
And just once again, for people who are unaware, why are we doing Real ID, and what's the importance of that?
Well, Real ID is a federal program that was an offshoot to the terrorist bombings on 9/11. Congress passed the Real ID Act, and what it does is it standardizes the information that each DMV gathers before they issue a credential. It's to make sure that the person that has that credential is who they say they are. It's not that there's any sharing of that information with the federal government. Each state still maintains their own database. It's just that we have to collect the same information that California does, or Texas, or Florida, to make sure that we're meeting the Real ID standards.
How has it, and I'm not just talking Rhode Island, but nationwide, that the coronavirus has had to disrupt that considerably?
If you're referring to Real ID, yes, it has. That's why they extended it to October of 2021.
How has the coronavirus impacted the DMV just generally in terms of your own operations?
Well, again, it's been a paradigm shift in that what we're doing now is the reservation only. We've also, I kind of look at it, there's been a silver lining to the cloud, because it's allowed us to get the reservation only system in there, which is something I've been very, very strongly in favor of. We've also had the opportunity to respond quickly to the pandemic by adding additional online capability. Over the last couple of months, we've added up 4 to 6 additional online transactions that people can do, and they can check those on our website. And we have 2 or 3 more that are going to be coming up towards the end of this month. One of the major ones is that if you remember, every 5 years, you had to come in and get a new license picture. What we've been able to do is we extended that to 10 years. So now anybody that's on a renewal cycle that has a license that is in this renewal period and they do not want a Real ID, they can renew it one of 3 ways. They can do it by through the mail. They can renew it at the drop boxes. We put drop boxes at each DMV location that's open. so that they can just drop it right there, and it'll be processed and returned to them in a prompt manner. And after November 1st, they'll actually be able to do that license transaction online as well. So if they won't have to come in for a photograph. So if their license renewal says photograph needed, that has been extended to a 10-year period. So on this renewal cycle, they don't have to come in.
Can they just throw their own picture on the license?
Well, unfortunately, we're not at that point yet.
Hey, it's a good time while we're sitting at home to take a look at your ID and look for those expiration dates. You know, I just pulled out mine while we were talking to you, and mine's next August, but it's good to have in the back of my head that, hey, next August, I'm going to be visiting Bud at work.
Yeah, either myself at one of our offices or at one of the AAA. If you're a AAA member, you can get your real ID that way.
And that's a pretty good way to go, because they're pretty efficient at the AAA offices, and they're pretty plentiful.
Yes, there are, I believe, 11 locations throughout the state at the AAA. And again, they're doing reservations only too right now. Again, they're trying to control the foot traffic through their buildings, not only for the safety of their staff, but also for the safety of our customers.
I imagine one of the biggest challenges has been tests for driver's licenses. Putting somebody in another car with another person closer than 6 feet during this time has to be challenging.
Well, it has been, but we've been very proactive on that as well. We established a different way to do road tests. It's more of a skills-oriented test, and the examiner stays outside of the car. We have a closed course set up at our Melrose Street location in Providence, and then we set up another one here in Cranston. So everybody comes here or to the Melrose Street, and they go through a skills test where they're doing lane changes, three-point turns, parallel parking, backing up, and it's been very, very well received by our people that are being tested. The course was designed by the gentleman who's in charge of that unit for the DMV, Doug Starodumsky, and all the members of his staff, all the motor vehicle examiners took part in testing and working out this particular skills test so that we could still keep our new drivers getting their licenses and getting on the road and getting their independence. Now, one of the things that makes me proud about that is I understand Massachusetts came down a couple weeks ago and they liked it so much, they're considering implementing the same type of road test that we've done.
Does that mean that you use less people, or is it still the same number of people that you're using?
It's still
for the road
the same
test?
number of people. On each road test, we can usually have probably about 3 tests going on at the same time, which has been very beneficial because of the backlog that started during the early parts of the pandemic before we had the closed course driver's test available. So we're pretty much back to where we should be from what I've heard on the recent numbers. And I don't see it diminishing the number of people because, again, we still have a significant number of road tests that we have to administer each year. And that's based on the numbers of staff that we have.
But is it true that you pass the test if you don't run over the instructor?
Well, that is the first criteria. That is the first criteria. But we've had people back over the stop signs and bump into a couple of the barriers. And usually that's not a good sign for somebody we want on the road.
Well, fortunately, they're doing it in your parking lot.
Yeah. Now, what we have done for safety for the examiners is there are the temporary jersey barriers set up so that the examiners are on one side of the barrier and they're protected. So if somebody does make a mistake and bump into a barrier, they're not going to hit and strike the examiner who's observing the maneuvers.
And Bud, you have my dog.
Yeah.
You don't have my dog, but that's my dog.
But your dog wants it.
Yes.
Can it drive?
He
Has a question.
can't have a driver's test.
You have locations all across the state. Is there anything people should know about particular locations in the state? Are any of the standards or any of the COVID restrictions different in different locations, for example, here in Middletown?
No, they're all the same from location to location. We've set up tents for the outside waiting areas. We have screeners that will screen individuals before they enter the building, and then they will go in presenting their reservation certificate, and then they'll be processed and out the door as soon as we can reasonably get them done.
I'm curious about some business stuff real quickly. How many employees in the DMV?
We're a lot of 210 people, but right now we've had some retirements and a few people that didn't make their probationary period. So we're down to about 182, 183.
Is that causing any kind of backups for the public?
Well, it does make it a little bit difficult because some of the people that we are down are forward-facing customer service representatives. We are in the process of going to be recruiting some people, but rather than having the large class of 12 or 13 that we normally could do, our training room can only accommodate 5 or 6 with the social distancing areas. So as we hire the people back on, it's going to take a little bit longer to train. In each of our CSRs, it takes roughly 4 to 6 months to actually bring them fully up to speed.
Did you find with the coronavirus that some of your older workers just decided to retire and not stay on? Because your people are working in close proximity with a lot of the clients.
Mm-hmm. We had a couple that left, but I don't know if they were necessarily as a result of COVID, because we were very proactive. We made sure we had the plexiglass screens up very early on. We have a very conscientious crew of cleaners that are here all during our working hours, who are constantly wiping down counters, elevator buttons, doorknobs, handrails on the staircases, to make sure that we're able to keep everybody safe. In fact, we've got a process in our testing areas for the permits that as soon as someone leaves a testing station, they put a card up on the chair, and a cleaner goes over and wipes down the computer and the chair and the counter area where that person was sitting before we allow another person to go sit there to take their permit test.
Do you think that some of the lessons that you've learned through the coronavirus, some of the stuff you put in, are going to have a longer lasting impact than the end of the virus, and that it really makes us more efficient?
Well, I think from a business standpoint, yes, absolutely. Again, the reservations, I think, have been extremely positive. And also because we've been able to add additional online transactions, people are starting to learn that there are things they can do and not even have to come to the DMV. One of the main ones is the registration renewals. We have stopped letting people come in for a registration renewal. They have to do it online through the mail, or if they have a limited capability on computers, they can just come by one of our offices, and we have drop boxes outside where they can drop their transaction in the drop box, and again, we'll process it and get it back to them as quickly as possible.
Can you just give a real quick rundown of the stuff people can do online?
Sure. If they go on the DMV website, if I try to get there right now, what I'll end up losing you gentlemen. But if they go on the dmv.ri.gov, there is a link on there that lists all the online transactions they can do. It'd be registration renewals, license renewals, disability placard applications, cancellation of registrations. So there's probably about 15 or 18 different transactions that they can do where they don't even have to come to see us.
Yeah, it's got to make it a lot easier.
We would prefer that they do the transactions online for their safety and safety of the staff here, and other people that would come in contact with.
A lot more convenient. One of the biggest complaints over the years has been the wait at the DMV.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it was always something that we at the DMV were always conscious of. But unfortunately, sometimes people would procrastinate and they would wait till the end of the month and then have to rush in to get a transaction done. Now we're seeing people are being more conscientious when they get renewals. They're doing from home, they're using the Dropbox so that they don't have to come in, and it's made a significant impact. So again, it's a real significant paradigm shift for people. And like I joked before, it's like making a reservation at a restaurant. Nobody minds making a reservation and waiting for, get to a good restaurant. So I think people are starting to see the same thing here, that they're able to do it. And then once they do come in, they're picking a time that's convenient for them, and they're able to get in and out in a very quick, expeditious manner.
Bud, is there anything else that you have to share from the DMV that would be helpful for readers, listeners, viewers to know about what's going on?
Well, again, it's the expiration date periods, which I had mentioned earlier, and those are available on the DMV website. And if anybody has a question, they just go to that link. They're able to see if their expiration date fell in those months, then they know they have to renew either by the end of November or the end of October. The Saturday hours, we released the reservations for them today, for this coming Saturday. And again, it's 8:30 to 12:30 here in Cranston only. And it's for the Real ID license transactions only at this point.
Frank, do you have anything else?
No, I think I'm good, Bud. That's good information, and I like the fact that you can laugh at my crazy humor.
That's the best thing we can do is laugh.
Yeah, absolutely.
There we go. And we like to do plenty of that, especially when we're talking about important and serious topics such as what's happening at the Department of Motor Vehicles. But thank you very much.
My pleasure. Have a good one, gentlemen. Stay safe.
And
Thank you,
again,
bud.
that website is dmv.ri.gov. If you want more information, right there on the front page, RI DMV breaking news. It talks about reservations, extensions, important information regarding sales tax customers, VIN checks, and much more. Mr. Prosnitz.
No, that sounds great. Glad he was able to join us, and good information. It's always good to have something different in the middle of this political season.
It is. I think I did 3 political interviews this morning. I've sat through a City of Newport Canvassing Authority meeting. So I've been on videos all morning. I have a general election, Rhode Island Board of Elections meeting coming up shortly here, as well as we have 3 political interviews this afternoon with Middletown Town Council candidates. So,
Well, and what time do they begin?
I will get you that information.
Sounds good.
We start at, I'll get you that information. Maybe it's 2.
All right, whatever it is.
Whatever it is. And all this week, we are focusing on Middletown Town Council, as well as Newport School Committee. Of course, we've already done Newport City Council. We've done all the reps. We've done all the senators. So we're making our way through the list. And right now, we're giving candidates the time to meet the candidates, voters the time to meet the candidates through our interview series. So we'll continue that this afternoon.
Yeah. It's a great service for people, and you can catch all of it online, and you can catch all of the interviews we did earlier with the Newport counselors, and you'll get a good profile of who they are and find out who to vote for.
Absolutely. And again, important information regarding if you've been procrastinating, putting off getting that renewal, now is the time to do it. You have to. And also DMV open on Saturday, so you can make an appointment now. So, all right, Mr. Prosnitz, I will chat with you later on.
Sounds good.
All right. On behalf of Frank Prosnitz and myself, I want to thank Bud Craddock from the DMV for joining us today. Some good information. Again, dmv.ri.gov for more information. We'll chat with you soon.